The principles of informed consent, confidentiality, and safety must sit at the center of this work. While the collection, analysis, and sharing of data is critical to improving support and advocating against this violence, it must not be done at the expense of the survivors themselves. The collection of administrative level data must be tied to service provision and ethically balance the risk versus benefits of collecting such information. There are challenges in terms of technical capacity and coordination and collaboration. So in terms of technical challenges relate to the functionality and the use of ICT system. That it hampers the establishment of an effective database. This includes unreliable internet, as we all know in Papua New Guinea, challenges in use of tablets, limited understanding of database system, and the need for ongoing coaching and close supervision for correct use. Upgrades in equipment and coverage coupled with intensive training, coaching, and a structured supervision would be help to eliminate or minimize these challenges. The challenges in terms of the capacity, establishing and maintaining a database in a resource-intensive initiative. Up until now, staff have struggled to manage data entry with the other existing responsibilities. And that's the challenge that we have faced all across all our data entry agency level, here in NCD as well. They have other responsibilities, but they also have that responsibility to enter data into NCD database, and that's been a challenge as well because of staff capacity at the agency levels. A lack of clarity around roles in the referral pathway has also contributed to challenges in identifying who is responsible for what and allocating adequate resourcing accordingly. Dedicated staff, data staff, would help address the staffing capacity shortfall, as well as review and clarification of roles and responsibilities in the referral pathway. Coordination and collaboration. Agencies on referral pathway are working in isolation. And frankly, in NCD, it's a big city. And if you are dealing with NCD problems, you are dealing with PNG. It's a mini Papua New Guinea. Resistance to entering and sharing data is noted. We have agencies who have committed to share data with the provincial authority, but we have other agencies also have their own challenges in terms of sending data to the provincial authority as well. It is often unclear the benefits of sharing data. High-level agreements on data collection, protection, and information sharing is needed to support service provision. Move forward with a shared functional database. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth Barry. So, ladies and can we thank her again one more time as she makes her way out? Manager, GBV Secretariat, and an overview, I suppose, her thoughts around the GBV case management system, which will be a focal point of our discussions with part of the panel already up here as well. I'm just getting word that one of our co-chairs for this session, in the like of the Minister for Communication, is on his way. So if you don't mind, we'll just give him maybe a minute or two as he makes his way in, and he will take up a stage as well as the chair with the Honourable Francis Maneke, Governor for West New Britain, who also is another chair to these sessions. And I will be introducing our moderator, who will take charge of the discussions in a moment from now. So if we can, perhaps, as we probably maybe a few more minutes when he gets here, I'm hoping he'll make it in good time. But maybe while we wait, can I bring up the Honorable Francis Maneke up onto the podium? Thank you so much. The Honorable Francis Maneke is the Governor for West New Britain. He's also one of two chairs for the discussions on GBV case management system. All right, as he goes up there, and as soon as the Minister for Communication gets here, we will get him up onto the stage as well. Thank you so much. Just as and before I introduce our moderator, Governor, would you like to say a few words, perhaps, just on an overview of your thoughts as a Governor of the GBV case management system, perhaps, in 1 or 2 minutes, if that's okay with you?
Yeah, good morning all, and for this very important agenda for Papua New Guinea is the way forward. And at this point in time, we as a country must start having respect, love, and obey women, our girls, and the children. So as today we now gather, and it's an agenda that we as a country must take way forward. And it is now the time for us to start taking up equality as an important agenda for this country. So as an agenda for provinces, it is very, very important for us to see that we insert our interest in terms of women, girls, and children in the respective provinces we have in this country. And having to do so, we as each provinces, we must start seeing the importance of how we can align the importance of all these agendas to the national agencies that we have in this country. And before we used to have parallel structures in how we run our country. But as we can see today, when there is a parallel structures that are established by this country, we now having important agendas not taken up to the interests of the country and also to the provinces that we have. In this case, we have the GBV as an agenda for this country, and it is now it's like an isolated agenda for us. And for each provinces, as I can see, now that I'm now a member of this important coalition for this country, having to take GBV as an important area of responsibility for each and every one of us, coming together and to see how we can align with the respective provinces. For example, we have the health authority. The provincial health authorities not in any way align the budget and the planning to the provincial governments, and so as the districts. So when they run their own parallel responsibilities, they come to a point where they miss out and they ask for the budget from the provincial government or the DDAs. So these are very important alignments that we need to have. So for my case in Western Britain, taking up the post of governor, I know because I have that very good relationship with my previous governor. Now I took his place. We have to align our budget, our plan, and the district with the provincial government and align to MTDP3. So in all other sectors, we must also do the same. I invited forestry to come so that we can be able to see the importance of the resources by our province in how we have to extract as much as we can the resource or the financial capacity from the forest department to the provincial establishment, so that we can be able to use to fund and establish important agendas like this. So being in this coalition, I see it as important. We must aggressively as a government start seeing women as an important agenda for this country. And I'm blessed to have my district, one of the 6 districts in the country that partnered Australian government to establish good governance programs. And prior to me coming into politics, this is my first time in politics, and I see governance is very, very important in any way we do things in the world. So that is why I have only two agendas for a start as a newcomer to politics. One is good governance, and the second is economic empowerment. So in this area of our theme today, how do we govern our province, districts, LLGs, and our wards? In doing so, when we want to really see governance in all those areas of governance, we must empower them. So me as a district, because now that I'm wearing two caps, me as a district, I see the importance of ward members. Ward members today are now very, very highly qualified. University graduates are now entering into politics at the lower level, at the ward area. So in that way, I see the importance of empowering them, and doing so, I bought them computers to start picking data from that lower level. So in doing so, they can be able to provide the data for that LLG, for the provincial government, and so as the districts. And at the same time, we can deliver the data for the national agencies. So those are the very important areas that I see important when we see or we want to take up responsibilities in taking up gender as an agenda for this country. In Western Britain, I have a very serious problem because it's a province that we have all Papua New Guineans live in. And it's like a mini Papua New Guinea. It's very hard for me to really administer or manage the population that I have, because the nature of the cultures. And when we have women there, we see in our culture, we are matrilineal. We, the Nakanai people of Western Britain, especially in the Talasia district, women are important because inheritance of power, inheritance of resources are through women. But then in most cases, we men suppress women. Having been authorized and inherited power, we still suppress them. But today, I really commend the governor of NCDC having to get this agenda forward. And it is where we want to balance. If there is authority, we have to put forward. We have to make clear to all societies that women's got power and they have the authority to continue to administer from the homes they have, from the resources they have. And so as it possible as a government, we must continue to support women to enter into politics. So in any government, in any level of government, we must insert the interest of how we can be able to combine all our activities with the importance of women. We now as men must realize that there is still the same soul that we must respect. In my district, I try to drive economic empowerment. I drive economic empowerment by way of using women. And power is where women mobilize. So I see in one of my LLGs in Talasia district, that is Oskin's LLG, I was surprised to see women gathered and build their own resource center in a bush material. And those are the very important signals of how women can do themselves. So they can gather in resource centers and they can be able to also enter into economic activities. And me putting them together because I want to see them enter into cocoa, because most all of most of men in Thalassa district are involved in labor-intensive work that is well palm. So we have economic commodity that is well palm in the district. But then most of women are missing out on how they receive revenue from this very important commodity. But at the same time, I now encourage integration of crop. And women come down to doing more of farming, and that is where they are good at. And in most cases, women tend to suppress their interest in doing their own business. So in my district also, I also empower women by way of SME, both in formal and informal sectors. I invite banks, financial institutions into the district, into the province, so that they can pay way for SMEs, especially targeting women, where they have been left behind for some ages. There is so much of cash flow in that province, in West Lubitin, especially my Thalassa district. But because of the nature of the environment there is not so much of sign of revenue being left behind, because most of the money taken from the activities there have been absorbed, and there is nothing being saved. And it's a very serious issue for us as a district and as a province. But doing so, I only see data collection is very important, so that we can see way forward in all levels of government, and at the same time, at the lower levels of government, we can be able to support our national agencies as to how we can do possible things for today's women, girls, and children as well. I come from a society which is in the bush, and I had to come out for schooling, and eventually now I become a member of parliament. And I see child abuse in that area. For now we measure and we identify as child abuse. But 40 years ago, if I'm not going to do anything as a child, I will never be fed. Because I left my home and traveled hundreds of kilometers only to go for school. And in doing so, I must be a slave to make life for myself. And that is how it happened for me today. So I see also women at homes. There must be love maintained, respect maintained, and obedience. Those are the key areas where I see fit for us to work as a family, to continue to partner in all works that we do in the communities. And I also commend the churches that made time and also spend more time in how they manage. They come to put together families, and that is where respect is maintained and sustained love all the way. I have one experience whereby my sister being left by her husband, and she eventually ended up having mental case. So one thing I experienced from that case is that my sister only responded to me and my wife. The reason is because when we are brought up, we are born into one family, we have a sense that we have the loved ones. And it took me 2 years to try to help my sister recover. It takes 2 years for us, for my sister, to be on the road without clothes. So it takes me 2 years also taking her back. And there is no medicine for such cases where they have brain cases. So in that area, again, I see the power of love.
Governor, we with the deepest request, respect, in fact, we will get the panel going, and then you can elaborate a bit more. But thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, can we thank the Governor for West New Britain, the Honourable Francis Maneke, member for Talasia as well. I also acknowledge the other chair for the discussions this morning, the Honourable Timothy Masiu, Minister for Communication. Could you all thank him as well? Yeah. Yeah. And for now, it is my pleasure to introduce the moderator for Session 4 on Case Management and Data, Mr. Noel Vada, Motu Koita Assembly and Co-Chair, NCD Task Force on Gender-Based Violence Prevention. Thank you, Noel.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. We're going to get straight to it. We've got to wrap this session up by 10 o'clock. So we're going to be moving along with it. I believe the panelists have already been introduced. We have Ms. Daisy Planner, CEO for Family PNG, to my immediate left. We have Ms. Bridget Thorold, Country Director for Child Fund PNG, and that's the lady in the middle. And right over there, the gentleman there is Mr. Jack Imbu, who is from the Office of the Child Family Services. We're going to get right straight into it. The topic of data management, case management, is an interesting one. It's a very technical discussion around computer science and best practices around how to manage data. But at the heart of it, it's stuff you guys already know. It's managing an OB number in a police station. It's managing a case file, following up at welfare. It's managing a district court file, an IPO file. Each one of you here, I suspect, has had an experience in one way or another with the case management matrix of various aspects of gender-based violence, whether it be the judicial routes or the administrative routes, the criminal police routes. We need to find a way to make it better. Where it's working, we need to improve. Where it's not working, we need to go back to the drawing board and figure things out. The scenario right now is we have government systems that are in place that are working in some places and not working in others. And when I say in some places and not in others, I mean that in a very broad sense. So in some provinces it works, in other provinces it doesn't. In some levels of government it works, in other levels of government it doesn't. And then we have a number of CSO and NGOs who are also managing private data sets. We need to find a way to unify, I guess, the whole system and find a way to make it more effective. Why is that important, ladies and gentlemen? It's important because when we have a unified system in place, we can manage resources better. That's really the crux of it. Managing resources better. We can also plan better. When we plan better and we manage resources better, the ultimate outcome is that cases do not slip through the cracks. And we've seen too many of that. We've seen too many of that with dire consequences. Literally, people dying every day because cases are slipping through the cracks. And the discussion we're going to have here is to illuminate what the issues are, what's working, what's not working, and what the recommendations are for these fine, distinguished gentlemen in the front to take to their peers. And I want to encourage you all to give our parliamentarians here a round of applause up on the stage here, and the governor and the governors and their team. It's not easy. It's not easy getting commitment at that level up at Waigani to support these programs. And I commend these brave men for taking a stand to end gender-based violence. Usually, there is community support, and we work towards political support. It's the other way around right now. There's already political support. These gentlemen are here. The onus is now on us to give them the recommendations, show them the community support. And so today, when they walk into Parliament, tomorrow, when the ministers walk into NEC, they can take our voices through this forum in there. So without further ado, let's get started. Ms. Daisy Planner, CEO, Family PNG. I have to ask, what are the key components in effective coordinated response that assist in strengthening everyone's accountability for survivor-centered approach?
in our experience in Family PNG, we have identified several key components in an effective, coordinated response with prioritizing the needs of the survivors. And one of that is the adaptation of case management. So case management is, it means one caseworker is allocated to certain cases, and she processes the client. We know it very well that when a survivor comes to service providers or our center, the emotions and the psychological status is very crucial. So the first work of the caseworker is to stabilize this and allow the client to ventilate. And when the level of mind and emotions are normal, that's the time that she will be receiving a briefing on what is her rights, also as well as the options. And what is the consequences if she chooses different options that were provided to her? It is very important to process this because many cases failed in the process, and many efforts of other service providers failed because the client or the survivors that come to us are still confused what exactly they will do in the situations that they are in. And if they are traumatized, that is very crucial to ask them to make a decision that would actually change not only themselves, but the situation of her family and her children. So it's a big decision that she needs to make in herself. So the work of the caseworker is to process that. And second is to advocate for the needs. We know it very well that needs of the survivors are always multiple when they comes to our care. So not all of that care is always available. We need to advocate, we need to raise it to specific service providers to be provided. And yeah, we need to, the second component is a strong collaboration and coordination among the service providers and the referral pathways. It is really hard if we will be working in isolation. In our experience, we have different service providers in lay, and all of us have several gaps. And not all have a lot of resources to help, but through collaboration and coordination, we have seen that a lot of cases have a lot of positive outcomes, and that has been proven through some research that was independently done, and as well as the individual clients' files from Family PNG. The third one is access to professional development of the service providers. As the level of GBB is getting into another degree, we need to equip our service providers in different ways of approaches and methodologies. And trainings and access to that development should be not limited only to the NGOs. It should be simultaneously done and provided along together with the police, with the welfare. So we are speaking in one language when we talk about cases. And the last component that I would say is the awareness raising in the community. We have seen that the more women or children that we are empowering about their rights, the more of them that would access services. Education is the only way to break the cycle of violence. And the more that we are talking this to the community, the more that the community and the leaders in the community is taking ownership in this issue. We would like everyone to be accountable, right? So we need to bring it to the community. We need to bring it to the farthest level that we can reach in the remote villages in PNG. I think another important component is to have an accurate database from various sources. to have accurate data would guide us and allow us to understand what exactly is the issue and what drives the issue. If we have that kind of understanding, we will know and we will identify appropriate interventions accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy. All right, we'll stay on you, Daisy. Now, I want some practical answers here. So basically, what I'm going to suggest to you is, what is one thing government can do tomorrow in terms of case management to improve the situation? Like one practical suggestion you can make to these gentlemen here and on the stage to take back to their colleagues and say, this is the one thing that you can do that will help folks like Family PNG do their work better. What would that one thing be?
Yeah, that one thing is currently Family PNG is working and funded appropriately with enough resource. And we have seen that this work is proven to help a lot of survivors to have positive outcomes. So if our donors are not there anymore, we don't want this work to also disappear. And we will be stealing this again services to the survivors that really need it. What I would like to ask the government and the leaders is embed this approach to the government or NGOs in different provinces and support this, fund this. Not only this work, but so many NGOs and so many CBOs I have seen. I traveled in different provinces. They have no resources. They walk. They put themselves at risk. They need support so that they can continue to do their work.
Thank you very much, Daisy, from Family PNG. We'll move the discussions along with Ms. Bridget Thorold, Country Director for Child Fund PNG. You guys do a lot of amazing work in the country and around the world. And my question to you is, One Talk Counseling Line has a strong internal GBV data collection system and has been an active stakeholder in supporting the pilot multi-sector GBV database with the NCD GBV Secretariat. Gee, that question's a mouthful. But what are the standards, mechanisms, and processes required for recording and reporting? I think we're really getting to the crux of the issue now, and that's about data management. So, yeah, that's your question. What are these standards? What are these mechanisms?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to share here today. I thought it might be useful just to tell you a little bit about how the One Talk Counseling Help Him line works. And it's a very exciting and very interesting service that's been established in PNG for the last 5 years in partnership between Child Fund, the FSVAC, and funded by the New Zealand government. And I think although it's established by a very informal setup through the NGOs, it's something that has provided the foundations for a sustainable model that could be scaled up and adopted in other contexts, whether that's at a provincial level or whether that's nationally. The way that the service works at the moment, for those who don't know, it's a national toll-free service. So anybody around the entire country can phone the toll-free number, they don't have to pay, and they can access counseling 12 hours a day between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. on any day of the week. And at the moment, we're actually looking at being able to extend that to a 24-hour service. So anybody in distress, anybody who's a service provider, a person at risk, a person who's already been abused, even perpetrators call this national helpline. And we see those as critical opportunities, being able to respond to those particular needs and both help prevent and help manage and respond to violent situations in the family, the community, and in intimate relationships as well. The way that it works, linking it now back to the systems and processes, the way that the calls come in, we are very, very careful in the protocols to make sure that we get consent to take down any information. And the critical importance of making sure that information is confidential and is managed with the utmost respect and care is a very key ingredient of this, because that information in the wrong hands can actually lead to more risk. So we have particular guiding protocols and a manual, actually, that informs how counselors respond to a call, what information they take in the intake form from a survivor or the person making the call. And before documenting anything, there's very clear informed consent. We're also very careful in the protocols to make sure we ask information that's going to be important, because a person in distress doesn't need to give information that's not necessary to share, but at the same time, you need enough information to help advise them on options that they might be able to make use of. So there are a lot of components, I think, that are very shareable, from the protocols, the intake forms, the way the service is set up, the way the counselors are trained, and the mechanism for running a service like this. In terms of the sharing of information, obviously that is critically important. And what Child Fund has at the moment is a database that we've established, and we've learned a lot. There are a lot of lessons that we can share about how we've set that up, what it takes to maintain it, what level of internet bandwidth you need, what kind of content's required, what kind of training's needed to enable counselors to complete that, as well as not get distracted by the database and ignore the needs of the client. So there are a lot of elements that we've learned and that we can share into a provincial or national initiative to make that work. We have found with that database, it's not straightforward. It's a challenging thing to be able to sustain, but it's all doable. And so our main message would be, we can do this. We've got examples of it on a relatively small scale, although having said that, not that small. We've had over 70,000 callers to the helpline, and particularly since we've scaled it up with additional resourcing that we've got this year as a result of COVID, we've actually seen a huge spike in the number of callers. The only thing you really need to have is a phone. If you have a phone, you don't need to be able to pay for the call. Things like that are critical elements in being able to provide the service, and for us to be able to then support the referral pathway from the person that's making the call, as well as to gather really critical, rich data that can be used to inform service provision, show trends of where other services need to be targeted, and help us get a better understanding of the issues and what needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. All right, just leading on to that, you said some interesting things, but I'll posit to you that there is a disconnect in terms of enforcing or getting enforcement done around a lot of the data that's collected, a lot of the cases that come in, especially critical cases. As I did with Daisy, I want to ask you for some practical suggestions for our leaders here. Do you think the national government needs to look at integrating a system like one-talk counseling along the lines of managing the FSVU caseloads and connecting that data that's collected from there, from your hotline, to the police, who can actually go out and do the arrests, execute the protection orders, execute protection measures necessary to prevent survivors from dying? Do you think that's something that the national government really needs to look at in terms of integration and obviously building capacity around, especially our 4 FSVU units around the country?
Thank you for that question. Yes, absolutely. I think that's a critical thing to be done. I think at the same time, that's a very big undertaking, and it needs a lot of planning and careful coordination. So I think the ambition should be there, absolutely so, but that we should also look at what are the phased elements that would need to be in place to expand what's in place currently in a graduated way, so that you don't put, I guess, take too big a leap and risk what's already in place. But we should still have the ambition to get there and a plan to actually make that feasible on a national level. Thank you. When you said graduated, I saw a smirk on some of the governors' faces. We're still trying to understand what this graduative system of government is that's been proposed that affects a lot of these provincial and sub-provincial systems that are in place. But thank you for that. I think the interest is there and the need for it is definitely there. A system like yours that works very well in terms of coordinating data, we need that running across some of the critical systems that are on the state side of case management. And I'm talking about the police and the court systems. And so I think that would be great. And that's a good segue into our next panelist, Mr. Jack Imbu of the Office of Child Family Services. Now, Jack, we're going to get a bit technical in our discussion, you and I. Let's start with the fundamental elements of child protection data collection. What needs to be in place for effective service delivery of such a data collection system? And then you might probably look at commenting specifically on child protection as well, because that's the most critical, I guess, type of data set that's managed by offices like yourself. Yeah, what does it take? What do we need to run something effective?
Thank you. At the NOCFS, National Office of Child and Family Services, the Child Protection Act actually allow us to establish a registrar in a way of a database to manage all the cases that comes on and about. At the moment, like in the previous times, they've been managing cases manually, which makes it much more difficult to integrate and also to establish a clear referral pathway. So when I came in, I tried to apply my expertise in that field to try and help as much as I can. They don't have that money to keep me in there, but I took the challenge in my expertise to assist where we can manage those very important data so that each GBV cases or child in need can be assisted much possibly. And we are very privileged. We had a good working team with UNICEF, and they introduced us this database management solution known as CPIMS, which is a platform that integrates all those information together, and it has been working in other countries. I took into consideration the requirements and the database that was put in, which I felt that it needed to be vetted and it needed to be translated into our context so that it worked well for us. Like in the IT, there are a lot of open source data management application solutions. They just throw it at us and they don't care how we do it or how we deal with the issues that we face today. So it took us almost a year, and I've been running to State Source Office to really vet how we can manage the data that we need to process. So I had a good working relationship with the State Source Office at the international arm of the law that deals with how to protect. And I also discovered that we don't have a law that states in the Constitution on how best we can protect data. So we had a lengthy discussion, we elaborate further, and I also alerted them that we'll also have a centralized server in our system while working with the cloud-based application that they were dealing with, and also attended a few of those workshops. And I would also like to thank Stephen and Minister Messi. They're doing a very good job out there on how best we can, get the policy frames the next right to manage data in that space. But to tell you now is that we have a database in place now. We're at the development stage. We're gradually into getting feedbacks from each of the key officers in the child protection, caseworkers, and CPOs. And I've also discovered that we don't have enough good IT skill sets out there so that they can easily translate the language I'm speaking into their context, and they can able to put in more data as much as possible. So like a lot of trainings and introductions of what needs to be done in that level. But so far, I'd like to tell you that we have come up with a solution and we're working on it, and in the near future, in the times of a week or two, we'll launch it and then start collecting data. But the key issue out there is, the key challenge is, how do we link all those data together? So that is where we need a holistic approach from the level of government policy and act to establish a countrywide data center managed by probably ICT department. We have EGIS in there, but at the moment we don't have that connected to all the government departments, all the state entries. NID is running a standalone system of its own. I wanted to openly tell all of us that we need to correct NID at certain space, so that all those data collections and they work together, so that we exactly know who's doing what case has been brought forward, who is the perpetrator, who is the victim. If we continue to run isolated data centers and databases, we exactly will not know what's happening out there, and we'll also get ourselves confused in which are the real data that we are doing, who is doing what. So I think I'm pretty much excited on how things are going on GBV, and which we in the IT space, like young people like me, can help, produce a good result out there.
Thank you, Jack. We'll stay on you, Jack. All right, so I'm mindful that Mosby is not Papua New Guinea. We have 4G towers here in Mosby, and we have readily available internet. That's not the case in the rest of the country. I'm also mindful that Waigani, the government is not just Waigani. We have governments in every province, and we have governments at every district level. So my question to you would be, do you want to see national government take a proactive step around passing some of these responsibilities, especially the funding responsibilities, down to subnational and sub-provincial layers of government and administration? Because that's where we need to get the data from, isn't it? And to make this a truly national experiment. And while you're answering that question, maybe you could also consider what would it take to make it work in a place where there's only 2G internet, which is basically 85% of the country. I'd like to get your thoughts on that, Jack.
Thank you. There is a big challenge out there, but I see there is great improvement so far, and I believe gradually we'll have ICT in terms of internet and network coverage throughout. The good thing now is everyone has a mobile phone. So the case that we have developed and we're working with is also can be used through the mobile app, and which has good security features. So like when we talk about government funding, when we run our issues to money every time, I don't think we'll have that luxury of, doing with money all the time. So the little we have, I suggest we can manage. Like if somebody has a mobile phone and a SIM card, I believe that's firm enough. So like the database that we are running can actually consume less megabytes. So we need especially laws and acts that gives us the protection of the data, and also each of the district MPs and provinces can look into penetrating internet into some of those remote sites where we need connectivity as much as possible.
Thank you, Jack. You know what? I might ask you a bonus question. What are the role of folks like Digicel, B-Mobile, and Telecom in this work? I know, for example, in Digicel, the website for PNG Loop is free. It doesn't matter if you have any data on your phone, you can access those websites. Can something like that be done for such an app, where it can be accessed freely across the whole country by ward councillors, by social workers, people on the ground in the communities?
At the National Office of Child and Family Services, we try to put all our caseworkers and CPOs in a closed user group, which the department or the organization can pay. But while comparing our ICT companies to the rest of the world, there are social packages that are normally provided by all the mobile service providers. We don't have the luxury of these services. Like companies like telecom is a state-owned entity, so where do they come in when we need this service at that level? So I think the responsible ministers and the CEOs or managers can look into how best we can, make this available to all our CPOs and caseworkers, so that they don't have an issue of saying, oh, I don't have data, so I couldn't able to send this information, or couldn't able to record this. So these are the challenges. So I think it really depends on the company and the management and the CEOs responsible in this area to work out a social package or a plan, so that we can all contribute in this sector.
Thank you, Jack. I think it's something that everybody has to be involved in, not just folks from government, but folks from the private sector as well. And there's a lot of good that can be done with technology. And thanks for your comments. We're going to switch a bit here. We're going to get commentary from a number of commentators that that we've identified. Can we get a mic to our commentators, please? The first one's Miss Jean Jano from the Eastern Highlands Family Voice. Jean, I might ask you to just comment on the conversation I was having with Daisy from Family PNG around the work that that's being done, and you're on the ground in Eastern Highlands. I want to hear from you guys. What's going on down there? What's going on thematically across the country in our rural areas, and then what can be done better?
Thank you, moderator. Nice question, Blue. You. Me ba talk pisin? Me Mary Law Place. First and foremost, me like talk thank you, Lord Papa God. Lo this la event. Me plan Mary Law Place a walking walk. Me plan no got insurance cover. Papa God sa lugaw ti me plan. So me like talk thank you long and past them. Na me like talk thank you long leaders, because government am step on top of soldier Lord Papa God. Number two, me like talk thank you all champions, me pioneers. This is their achievement, and I stand humble. All katimbus now talk go. Na now me come stand up witness him. Some people lose him life blow all. I stand humble. I see Waineti Ome. I came to know her 2011, Lady Dem Carol Kido, and my former boss and my role model, late Naomi Yupai. All katimbusi. This is their achievements. Family Voice came into existence in 1997 through a workshop held by the Honorable Governor for NCDC. He was the human rights lawyer at the time. 5 plaporol go stop lo dislabum lo NSI nol harim tok blongem na bel blol karap. You think mi plol meri ya poroya mi plaporoya. Pasin ba yumi? Ay ba yumi make wonem now. Pigni meri blo mi bahol sa wonem. And they formed Family Voice, and their core service was referral, counseling and referral. So now, Mr. Nab, plenty talk all working penis. Me ba highlight him, is you 80% rural Mary, also pilim one me ba me highlight him. Number one, only me. We need printed, simple information. Plenty English no got, plenty talk PC no got. Put in picture. Ba me go also. Me run away lo sosri, ba me go away, and me like save. Printed information. Number two, issue na challenge below me, referral pathway. You me talk, na you me talk. Me plan less talk, me plan like look at accent. You talk yet or kati me lo boost stuff. Put him lo accent. Referral pathway, and must work. 45 years, and me nap. NGO try, lo strong blame, na time down na funding go, and put down. Nara plakam kirapken, you me starting work over and over again. Thank you, government. Let's run from here and complete it. Number 3, issue me. Central database system. Thank you all speakers. You play talk straight here. I'm true play talk. But issue me, I must say, when I'm traumatized, I don't want to repeat my story from one survivor, one plus service provider, to another. I'm more traumatized when repeating my story. Me like go one plan na mi story long am kisim na lock him go system. Time me go come up na rapla. Me no need lo story like you look him the system na you helping me. So you mean no can talk, thank you, me Harry must walk and start. It's a ripple in the ocean. A ripple is started by a drop in the ocean. You may start. Number 4 point, I mean, heavy Mr. put him and look him on the ground and rapid response. Rapid response, missing out to help him. Me ring him one to cancel line. Na Mr. Pablo, Eastern Highlands. How about help him go me hurry up? On the way, me lose him life, blow me. Me cut him mountain, na me run away yet. Man, blow me cut him road, na talk save. Mobile phone system, I'll block him road, na cut him penis. I need rapid response for me. In this room, there are women human rights defenders sitting. You know, me ask me, in this room. Women human rights defenders across this nation. Son of you are champions. You got money or not got money. Police come one time you or police not come one time you use a sacrifice in a run. You are the real heroes. Rapid response is my issue. Teachings and awareness. In all town tasol in all conference karim go lo bus tu na toki mi lo bus. Mi masave wonem lo emi stop so me can access him. At the moment me no save. Me go to village court, one more talking me go back, man fighting me stop. Eventually I will die. In the mountains of Nupro, one village court magistrate am come na talking me. Ay, you play talk na. Village court blow me play before. I'm say all right now. Court case day blow me play. 10 pla cases, 9 pla blow MGVV. Na me no sabe how to handle him. This is reality on the ground. As the me have some talk. And I'm happy that at least there is wave, there is ripples. But please, I must go to me 80% Mr. Place. Number 6 point, worry, disability inclusion. Ask them, no harim. Structures you put in, me no access him, time money bagarapi me. Me mouse pass me go to lame complain, no got sign language man to explain him go service provider, this is my, I'm traumatized, where can I go? Only that me time you working on something, think him disability. Think him the most vulnerable widow. Think him all this group. Na make him decision one time. Sunday me come to site event na me hari one partner me disability am talk. Time na Mary Lacrosse. All say use him English. Also para him go talk pisini. Give him back front ogata one time kill him la talk pisin. You mean la start one him talk pisin. Positive outcome, me look him on the ground. Me like acknowledge him this day, given this opportunity. Me like acknowledge him, work blo yupla. Thank you. Me like acknowledge him too, member blo Ungay Bena, Honorable Benny Allen, for his disability inclusion in all his work. Time I'm having report me play NGO go talk him and talk, ay, me build him road come, infrastructure come, heavy to come, so how can I help? And buy him car and I give him. Disability, working data. Now disability partner blow me Ungay Bena, you go ask him, how many people in the Ungay Bena have impairment? At the click of a button, and can pull him come out so not talking you. This la. That is what I want for GBB. At the click of a button, member blow me come ask him, me must press him tasol na talk. Lo this la section here, domestic violence am going up. This la section here, social killing am going up, and they have to do something. Me like acknowledge him too, Honorable Robert Atiafa. Only by wheels car na give him lo mi pla. You pla nambi se me come look at road mi pla na mi jealous. Mi pla Highlands here. No got road too. Lig susupitu mi pla sa time pusim go lo save him man. We need wheels and Land Cruiser 4-wheel. Mega bull bus or get something one time. In closing, my recommendations, triple tasol. Number 1, me support him talk to ponemia. Create a central database. He got time can work blame, but survivor come look at me. I'm gonna look him nar. My concern is I do not get to repeat my story and get traumatized again. Number 2, create a one-stop shopping center. All mama lo place talk, one-stop shopping center. Where you go Lahaba City, fresh fruit stop Lahab side. This la stop Lahab side. This la stop. One plus shop tasol go round bang come at na mamas na go house. That is what I want. A one-stop shopping center for GBB. Me go inside data system stop, policy stop, counseling stop, or get something stop. Me no afraid of them. Me come out na me go ya. Susabla me ringi me na talk. Man, play you wet stop la upside. Maski logo la hab. Me can katim rot na me run away. These are realities on the ground. Me marry lo place, me like in one-stop shopping center. Me no got travel around. Walking blow me. Number 2, number 3 na last. Me talk plenty too much. Number 3 point blow me. Flexible, concrete, long-term funding. Me one bell one time tupla. Me play work lo stop one time donor, stop one time donor, come one time agenda belong time go, ba puli mat, me ba puna na. Me no na kira. Please leader blow me na government blow me. This la heavy. Age can only affect a person. Trouble fight can affect clan, but GBV will affect family, which will affect the nation. Long-term funding for community development, because to us, that's the first point of referral, me plus a golongol. Maintenance, pikinini blow me, man blow me, and me plus a golong community development. Number 2, time will rape me plus a Spitla Family Support Center. 74-hour security, na safety blow me plus stop inside the support center. Fund him. Now Planty Mary Support Center, you go, all come up storehouse. I wonder why. Why not come up storehouse? You may receive naging work law. Family Sexual Violence Unit, they want to work, bless their hearts. They want to work with us. They want to respond as quickly. But they can't blow them hard. After you have implanted penis, we don't need to talk. Mary Safe House. Mary Safe House is stopped, but they are not equipped with the necessity basic blow survivor. Nepi blow pikinini, kai blong em. So time people go, doc, you must pay 50 kina or 60 kina past them come stop. Why? No got kai blame, me no got money. Please look at the Mary Safe House, especially in the rural settings. Because some people heavy on mama sa go long but hardly you understanding you but man walking or lion. Let me know say papa ni mi got lion no. O lion sa kam nakati mon man merio. You play at second. And funding for local CBOs, and who are passionate, who give their life with money or with no money. People, it's their heart and they go for it. Identify and fund him. Now funding me no meaning 1 year, 2 year, no God. You set him now, you go, no member come. It must be set in stone so it does not change. It is not politically motivated, but person motivated, people motivated. In conclusion, we, the women in the rural community, do 2 things to support you, honorable members. Number 1, we vote you in, believing in you. And number 2, we pray for you every day. We are on our knees praying for you, believing and hoping that you make the right decisions for us. And to us women's folk and men supporters in this room, let's work together. Strong him konabli na building empire you lose him. Time you cross go come, Mary walk la die. Let's work together for a common cause. And let's teach our young man once, train the young Mary. So time me go or me die, the young person runs with the same passion and the same dream. With that, thank you
very much, Jean. Just give her a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep this energy up. Good. I'm very happy. Our next commentator, Sergeant Alice Arigo from the Tari FSVU. My sister, we don't have a lot of time, so in 3 minutes. These are the decision makers. No. Hey, people blow me. Harem. These are the decision makers. Tell them, what is the problem? What do you need? Tell them. Don't beat around the bush. Tell them. These are the decision makers. They want you to tell them what decisions they need to make. So my sister, take it away, please. Go ahead.
That's not fair, giving me a little while to talk. That's not fair. But anyway, I want to thank you, the Honorable Governors, Honorable Hoes Pakop, and Honorable Alan Bird, and Alan Gary Jufa, and the rest of the parliamentarians that are here, that were here yesterday, we want to salute you all for the great work you're doing in supporting ending violence against women. I am from a remote, not a district, but a province, Hela. I'm honored to be here. I just want to recommend a few things that from the presentation of our presenters here. And my first recommendation, let's look at the women, the rural women that have been working on ending violence against women. My sister has said it. Ordinary human rights defenders, especially in the highlands, who's been working on this work for a long, long, long time. These are summit forums that come up here, MKK, Blomipla, Fight Blomipla. And we want to acknowledge those human rights defenders from the highlands and rest across the nation. One of my recommendations that I want to make here is, I think my sister has said it already, establish a coordinated desk at the national level and at the provincial level as well. Because at the provincial level, that's where 80% or 90% of the population have access to information. That's one of my recommendations. And my second recommendation is, a lot of it has been said about FSV in the country. As my other sister said, FSVU is been established but not funded. And I want to challenge the MPs that it's not been funded. We are volunteers working. Though we are public servants, but there's other police officers that are having a luxury, having 24-hour vehicles, with high-duty allowances. But FSV officers sacrifice our lives, working with angels in the communities. I'm from Hela. I sacrifice. My house is a safe house. My office is FSV office, Child Protection Officer's office, Welfare office, Women's desk. So they bring all the issues into my office. So, community development, where are the child protection officers, the welfare officers? Can they do the job and I do my job? My other recommendation is, can we revive the Family Sexual Violence Action Committee in the provinces? I think only few provinces are working in NCDA and in Rabo, in Morobe. But we need to revive the Family Sexual Violence Action Committee. And they should take lead. I don't know why they're dying. We're all dying. And now we're having another summit here, and then we're trying to wake up again. Please revive FSVAC, and we take it on from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Alice. There you go. Now, folks, that table over there, you can see people taking notes. Those are rapporteurs. Okay, the points all talk, maybe I record him. Okay? And I have to wrap this up in 5 minutes because these gentlemen have to go to Parliament. They will take those recommendations with them. All kind voice blue plan. Plenty time initial criticism or politician. With GBV, that needs to end. They are here now. They are giving us the political support. We need to give them the community support. We need to give them the technical recommendations as well. So, our last commentator, Ms. Ume Waineti, she does not need an introduction. Ms. Waineti, we don't have a lot of time. So if I can ask you in 2 minutes to just make comments on the discussions that have happened, and again, I'll probably posit to you the same thing. What's one thing that you need to communicate to this gentleman here for them to take back to their colleagues in NEC, in Parliament, so that they make the decisions that make the difference on the ground here in PNG? 2 minutes, Ms. Waineti. Thank you very much.
Well, I think I need more than that. Thank you, Governor Powes, and also Governor for ECPIC. we've been crying for political direction and commitment, and this has now happened. And this has happened, so, you know, I am one of those who is really grateful to see parliamentarians here sitting, listening to us. Unfortunately, you have not given those who are doing the work to speak so that you can be more aware of what is really happening on the ground. Because I'm sure they were all brought here, but they have not been given a voice to speak. A lot of things were said yesterday and today, and I want to bring us back to what was it all about. First and foremost, referral pathways, though we are asking for one-stop shops, cannot happen in Papua New Guinea because we do not have funding. And so we rely on, like when I went to see Dr. Babona at Port Moresby General Hospital to open Family Support Center at Pomgen, he said to me, anybody who walks in through the accident and emergency, part of FSC services is the treatment. And so he said, we didn't have money to put a doctor at a one-stop shop, but they could be able to treat people. But what they have failed to do is the internal referrals have not been addressed. Internal referrals, because there are referral entry points, is not just FSC, but children's clinic, antenatal clinic, are also an accident emergency and referral entry points. And these are not coordinated. So support is not given to those who come in. So internal referrals must be looked at. And that goes also for the FSVU. FSVU is an entry point. Or police-owned internal referrals must be addressed. Because if it's criminal matter, it goes to CID. If it's to do with juveniles, it goes to juvenile justice. So those things are there, but internal referrals must be addressed. The other very most important thing is we have safe house, and the guidelines have been developed. But these guidelines must be recognized and be legalized to be recognized for safe houses to practice under. Those things have not been done. Lack of skills and capacity building in the network, referral network. Referral network will only work if the partners meet, and that's why provincial committees is important. If you meet and discuss issues that are happening in the referral network, you work together to fix them. This is a cross-sectoral approach, not individual departments addressing these things, because everybody have a part to play. That's why it's a cross-sectoral approach. So whatever health department cannot do, they look at police to do it. So those things need to be, and secretariats were established when we asked NEC to give responsibility to the provinces for the secretariats to be established. That was to take ownership for coordination at provincial levels. And if secretariats are not established and not working, then coordination will not be seen, and we will continue to complain that there is no coordination. Because that coordination office also feeds the government. You are talking about money, you don't provide data to the government, government will not help you. Your referral pathway, your entry point is your secretariat that must be established at provincial levels. The GBV strategy calls for that, and that must be implemented. So a lot of these things we are talking about, case management will not work without a referral pathway being fixed. And referral pathway works with case, because that's a center that calls for case conferencing when a case does not work, if it's not progressing. So it's all in our hands. We have government now coming on board to help us. This is a reality check. Let's sit back and really look at what we are doing. Government has come on board, and they want to help us. Like yesterday, I liked the way, though my pidgin is not really good, but I like the way Governor Baird said, they have heard our cries, and they're willing to help us. So let us work with them and see how far we can go. Thank you very much. Oh, one other thing I want to say. Sorry. There are 4 secretariats that were established: Alatau, NCD, Morobe, and Rabal. We should review them and learn lessons from them to roll. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hume Waineti. Ladies and gentlemen, I will shortly hand over to the co-chair, Honorable Timothy Masiu, Minister for Communications, to make final comments. I'll keep this short. You've heard from the people in the field working. You've heard from people on the ground, in the provinces, in the districts. A lot of you have come from the provinces and districts. I said it to Jack and I'll say it again. Mosby is not PNG, and Waigani is not the government. The government trickles down to every province and every district. And we've got to come up with a holistic approach in solving problems like how to better manage data, how to better manage cases. Because GBV does not just happen where there's network coverage. It does not happen where there's a lot of police units. It happens in every village, in every district. And so I'm very humbled by the interest that you're showing, and I'm greatly humbled by the wisdom of these leaders here on stage and sitting here. And so then they have to run by 10 a.m., so I have to hand back to co-chair, Honorable Timothy Masiu, for final comments. Co-chair, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Just one thing that we didn't do yesterday, and I want us to do that now. Can we give 1 minute silence to those who died through GBV? Can we all stand up and give 1 minute silence? We remember those who lost their lives. This is a very serious matter. Thank you very much. Let's all be seated. We are here for a purpose, and we have been speaking about this for the last one day and till late yesterday, and today we'll be talking about it again. Just quickly, because I have an NEC to attend this morning at 10 o'clock. Me by talk pisin tu, because me sabol se planti lo apply kam long way hap lo Papua New Guinea na. Me no like Maswara lo talk English. Me got 3 plablo me only kam lo South Bougainville. Long electorate and me long way too much. Na Bougainville and me 1 place where this gender-based violence and me come a big through. Lo time me go through lo crisis. The time people go through long heavy, you know, got law and order, you know, got office staff, you know, got policeman, you know, got police Mary. So people kissing big play heavy through lo this time. Now suppose you play ask him, sambla long this play, line lo me only stop lo here, all by story lo you. When armed men only come na puli mo liang pla Mary now they carry moligo. Armed soldiers come na small Mary Blomi Blana Kari Morigo. We have gone through this. And so Taimi Hari Molsem, he got this very important coalition. And Honorable Powers Park of now Honorable Allen Bird, now Governor Sodibo Sana Blongen, me put him hand Blomi go on top. Me no put him hand on some member, that's what me put him hand on some papa. Or some husband, or some man where big at big pla, bear long or young pla you belong today. Or young pla man or young pla Mary. Na tu all pla Mary na all pla man too. So long tete morning, me by hurry up tasol. Me don't have long talk lo one and something me preparing, but me like talk or some. All get a talk and come up in this. Planty talk, you know good pla Thomas. Now you may finish lo here. You me plan, me sana pantem this plan governor go pass. Me sana backside long on. As a minister, I think you got Narbla brother minister, so the staff inside this coalition. Me blah by work hard. Long helping one and something, and come out here, you go through long this coalition, and come inside the cabinet. Me blah by bringing me go inside. Now me hamamas sem Prime Minister, Honorable James Marape, asked them to talk, tete and by come. Now by receiving resolutions, blue you me. Me hamamas towards them. Plan to talk, you make him, and everyday issues you miss face him. Now, Mipla is one and something will come up, and this is the time to put our hands up and work together and make this thing happen, instead of talking and talking and talking and talking. Alongside long ICT, Mipla work long as minister responsible, portfolio minister long ICT. Mipla work long, be trying best long kirabimol radio stations long country. Me come back lo vanimo na we work long weekend. Me go long Goroka, me go long Wabek, me go long plenty hap lo country. In fact, 13 province me finish. Inside lo this short period of time me start as a minister. Me work him this because me like him radio stations long only must operate. I mean today you be got all kind of something. You be got Facebook, you be got social media stuff. But plenty long all this something only no carry more information across. Plenty all this something only come on more German story to us. Only come up in plenty heavy long you me, huh? So me na department lo me bla work lo one bla transformation policy, digital transformation policy. Me like talk all same this bla digital transformation policy. And me bla work long en. And me kisim look sabe bla National Executive Council finish. And we kisim look sabe bla National Executive Council. Now this bla ICT ministry bla me na department. We will be the policy drivers. National policy long delivering infrastructure, digital government, digital skills, innovation, entrepreneurship. Cyber safety, privacy, financial inclusion, long G2G, G2B, G2C, G2E levels. You buy talk all one is G2E, G2B, now this kind something. Also, by me talk pisin. Or this plus something you don't have understanding. So let me stop long untap lo you me all get. Time people walk long and I come up through. And by me plus start lo come up ima. So this plus transformation bill or policy na bill. And by look long introducing data governance standards long data storage na sharing or na sharing long data. Identify custodians of data. People by make people accountable for data handling. People by establishing national data center or data repository and by me by set up him. Now me by making long enabling government to know what data and when the data is to be looked into. So for example, police, they can securely access statistics on demand. And these are delivered online under different categories and according to what stage of the criminal justice system. So, important, me by work one them all get the sectors, all get a line sin now nantapia, by me work one them all. By me make sure that this, because this department blow me. And for too long, I'm only tuck him away long, some have gardens nice stop. Time he come up long as a minister or last year or November. Me come out timor na mi plan now office lo mi plan staff antap solong MS building ya, antap solong Musgrave Street ya. Mi plan puti mi kam na mi plan gat mi am mas sem secretary lo mi am staff ante mi long this morning Mr. Steven Notanaho. You sanap na ba looking you. Em this plan young plaman want them plan this save long em. Na em walk long making big plan walk through. Not looking more say mi plan change him. Mi plan modernize him, want him something you got so that people can work on them all get the stakeholders. People, we don't want to leave anyone behind. We want everybody to be together. We have to make this thing happen. So all mama no young plan, all papa you plus in lo here lo tete morning. Me no na pulling plan it doctor se be talk but me how master. Lo side blow me be ready to solve. One is something you talk long and I resolve him this meeting. We ready lokisimi go antap what the colleague ministers, the cabinet, na prime minister was very, very supportive of this initiative. We by moving. Let's make a change. Now is the time. If we don't do anything today, we will never do anything in the future. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think you've summarized it really well, and you've ended it with the best way possible to end it. God bless you all. Let me say it again. God bless you all. Thank you all for coming. I will pass it back to Douglas for the conclusion of this session. Thank you all for being a very great audience. Thank you.
Well, what can you say? Can we thank Novada, our moderator? Yes. Yes. Yes, you can. Okay, thank you. And can we thank our panel? Thank you so much, again, including the minister. All right, as they take the leave of the stage, thank you, Minister. I will be calling upon our coalition, the coalition members and parliamentarians to be on stage once more. And of course the co-chairs, including the Honourable Powers Parkop, Governor for NCD, the Honourable Alan Bird, Governor for East Sepik, and of course all coalition members to be on stage. This point in time we'll be inviting rapporteurs. They've been doing a fantastic job behind the scene, collating information, and they will be making a few presentations. This is the focal point of the presentation that will be done, and of course the statements that will be read and made to Parliament. Thank you. Our co-chairs, yes, can we thank them as they come up onto stage? Thank you. The co-chairs, including Governor Parkop and Governor Bird. And yes, we also would like to call up the coalition members as well, the members of Parliament. Sorry, gentlemen, if you also can come up and accompany the two. Thank you. Thank you. Minister has to take his leave. Now, can we thank the Minister as he goes out? Thank you. Yeah. Parliament sits this afternoon. It's a big session, budget session, but of course a time also that the deliberations we've had over the last 2 days, including today, we're hoping that it will make a strong statement and strong move on the floor of Parliament in the course of its sitting in this session. For now, though, I'm going to invite rapporteurs to come one by one to make their statements from the sessions that have been deliberated on over the last 2 days, yesterday and perhaps today as well. I'd like to invite to the podium the rapporteur for session 1 to read his statement, Ms. Stacey O'Neill, CEO POM CCI. If Stacey is here. Okay. She's on her way, yes? Okay, I'm just getting an indication, of course, and I think that's the importance about having a sign language so I can understand what they're saying on the other side. What do you think? Eh? All right, okay. Stacey's on her way. Yeah, Stacey, thank you so much. Take your time. She will come up and read her statement in front of the coalition here as a take note. In part of the formalities, they will also make a response through the two co-chairs here in the later part of this session. Thank you, Stacey. Can we all thank Stacey? Stacey O'Neill, CEO POM CCI. Thank you.
Honourable members of Parliament Coalition, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is our outcome statement for session 1. Now is the time to stand united for equality. Session 1, Equality Leading the Change, highlighted that despite the right to equality for all men and women enshrined in the Constitution, widespread gender-based violence in Papua New Guinea has resulted in a playing field that is not equal for women to realize their full potential, as stressed by Governor Powis Pakop yesterday. The Coalition of Parliamentarians Against Gender-Based Violence must fulfill their constitutional responsibility and obligation to the women of Papua New Guinea to create a transparent, safe, and secure environment for women in all aspects of life, including to stand for election without threat of violence and harassment. This will create a Papua New Guinea that respects gender equality. Laws and policies to address gender-based violence must be resourced and operationalized into action to make a tangible difference in the lives of women, children, and men all across Papua New Guinea. We demand the following outcomes. 1, the Coalition of Parliamentarians and Parliamentarian Committee Against Gender-Based Violence must ensure its efforts and this high-level attention and focus on addressing gender-based violence is sustainable by ensuring the Parliamentary Committee is adequately resourced with a functioning secretariat to operationalize the work of the committee. 2, action and operationalize the national strategy to prevent and respond to gender-based violence 2016 to 2025. 3, pass reserved seats for women in national parliament by an act of parliament. 4, adequately fund and resource the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary to effectively respond to cases of gender-based violence in a timely manner from arrest, investigation, through to prosecution. 5, strengthen access to education, including early learning centers for all children to level the playing field for both boys and girls. 6, decentralize national functions, giving provincial autonomy to manage finances and resources for economic and financial empowerment for women. And lastly, strengthen resources for parents and families to create healthy values and respect for gender equality in the home. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That's the outcome statement for session 1.
Thank you, Stacey. Moving on, I'd like to invite to the podium the rapporteur for session 2 to read his statement. Could you all please make welcome Ms. Wallis Yakam, Executive Director of CIMC.
Good morning, members of the Parliamentary Coalition, led by Governor Pakop and Governor Baird. Ladies and gentlemen. And I would also acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Mr. Rapola here today. Thank you. Okay, for session 2, we have, well, to the topic of now is the time, United for Equality. Session 2, we were looking at walking the talk, institutional change. So we've had private sector responding to speakers of government and what they were doing in terms of institutional change regarding or in relation to GBV and how they are addressing that in the workplace. So Department of Personnel Management was presenting gender equity and social inclusion policy that they have done in 2016. The National Capital District Commission also was talking about what it was doing. So as a representative private sector that were presenting as well. So from that, we have looked at one of the key issues that came out was that all of us were working in isolation in terms of what we are talking about here. So provinces are doing their own thing, districts and local level governments, communities, NGOs, we are all working in isolation. So how do we work together to make sure that we have an impact in the institutions that we're working with? So the first recommendation that we are putting forward here is that we are strongly recommending to the coalition, our parliamentary coalition members, that we need to make sure that we mainstream GBV in all sector institutions. So that means we are talking about public sector institutions as well as private sector. That has to be rolled out in, through the different levels of government as well. This is to use the NCD model that's already happening because they have a gender-based violence strategy that they are working with. They are contractors as well in terms of having specific clauses to apply to those contractors and the clients they deal with. And then learning from the 15 organizations that are already organized in the business sector that we have had them yesterday. Okay, number two recommendation we are putting forward here is that the public and private sector employees create and enforce codes of conduct and anti-GBV contractual obligation clauses around gender-based violence and behavior at work and at home for their employees and their supply chains. Number three recommendation, public and private sector employees support the needs of employer survivors of gender-based violence. Number four, public and private sector employers only contract with third parties who have and enforce an anti-GBV code of conduct. Number five, all public and private sector employers resource counseling and therapeutic activities for staff survivors and perpetrators to support their change processes. Number six, private sector demands the national government to resource the national GBV strategies implementation. It's overdue, but if we can do it, because it's due in 2025, we still have time. Number seven, create strong partnerships and effective coordination through a community of practice between the private sector companies and government, as well as civil society organizations providing essential GBV services and prevention programs. Number eight, by 2025, at the time of the review of the GBV strategy, triple the current number of women employed in public institutions at all levels and with agency in justice sector, police, and courts. Number nine, significantly and urgently create easy access to information on GBV services to the public with targeted approaches for specific groups such as people living with disability, people living with HIV/AIDS, people who are in the special group called LGBTQI, and sex workers, the elderly, and children. Most of them we forget. Number 10, education and awareness has to be done aggressively, and that has to be streamlined in all the activities we are talking about, because that's the very first activity that we all have to do. Someone was talking about this visual arts or small, the Leader Mary Blow Eastern Highlands. We need small layman's language, little information like that, but that does a lot of things at the community level, because most of our people are illiterate and we need to target that particular population. So education and awareness has to go first, and that has to be embraced and embedded in all the activities and policies and programs we are talking about here. Okay, number 11, policies and laws need to be implemented completely with adequate allocation of resources to invest in institutional change. So a lot of policies and legislations, laws we have already done, and they have implemented. Some of them are put in the back. We don't hear about them, and some of them we are already mentioning here, but we don't know where the status of their implementation are. We need to look at those and start resourcing them and start implement. Because we are talking, but we are not actioning, and now it's the time to talk and we have to walk. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Ms. Yakam, the Executive Director of CIMC. As we move on with the presentations or the reading of the statements, for session 3A, with its statement, I'd like to call call up to the podium Ms. Bessie Maria, Program Specialist with UN Women. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished guests and participants for this GBV summit. So, sorry, I'm short, so I have to lift it. Okay, so this is the outcome statement of the session on GBV referral pathways. So violence against women and violence against children are global health and human rights issues that violates the very principles of gender equality that we've been advocating for over the past few days. We, the women of this country, do not need statistics to tell us that we have a humanitarian disaster. We have an epidemic in the country that needs action. So we also know that GBV is prevalent across all sectors of our society. And we know that women of PNG, women and children, withstand some of the most extreme levels of violence in the whole world. Despite successive governments' promises of justice, nothing concrete has been done. Having said that, PNG has also made great strides as a country in developing policies and legal frameworks for ending violence against women and children, and I don't have to name them. You know the acts, the policies, the legislative frameworks that are available to support this cause. However, implementation of all these great legal and policy frameworks for the protection and safety of women and girls, survivors of violence, it's a big challenge. It's still a big challenge. It is evident from the presentation during the GBV referral pathway that the existing mechanism to link survivors of violence against women and children to supportive and competent systems of care, such as medical care, mental health, psychosocial service, police assistance, legal and justice support is fragmented. There has been so many issues that has been highlighted by different speakers in almost all the sessions regarding referral pathways. For the session, it was highlighted, there were examples given on the challenges and the gaps of the referral pathway in PNG. So for example, the lack of prosecution of perpetrators of violence against women and children. And the case of, for example, the case of Lenieta Kapari, who was accused of witchcraft and burnt and tortured in front of hundreds of witnesses in 2013, almost a decade later. And the 80 men who were arrested have not yet been prosecuted to date. Police are also under-resourced with ratio of 1 police officer to 2,000 citizens, making it almost impossible to provide rapid response, especially when it comes to addressing socially related violence. Despite the high number of GBV cases presented to court, over 50% are struck out because of lack of evidence or because survivors don't understand the court processes, or compensation is a means. Compensation is used as a means to mediate. Police, family sexual violence units are underfunded. And from what we have heard, they deal with 30 cases per day with limited resources and support. Even safety and security of frontline GBV service providers continue to be at risk when justice systems have been compromised through the one-talk system involving bribery and abuse of authority. there is lack of GBV essential services and a functional referral pathway at all levels, but especially in the rural areas. It seems like the referral pathway works only for the urban settings. Safe, protective environments are not always available for survivors of violence against women and women and children, sorry. The limited number of safe houses are mostly funded by donors. So our key recommendations, we recognize and acknowledge the commitment of the coalition members to address GBV and advocate for gender equality as leaders of this nation. We also acknowledge the efforts of government agencies working with limited or no resources to ensure there is continuum of care and support for GBV survivors. Despite our assumed multi-sectoral approach to addressing GBV, vital services for survivors within the referral pathways are almost non-existent, and if available, are under-resourced. As leaders of this country, we see the following as key actions you could take to address the current gaps with GBV referral pathways. And we've proposed 3. Number 1, to ensure GBV is a priority for 2021 budget. And also to highlight that we have a PNG national strategy to prevent and respond to gender-based violence, 2016 to 2025, a colorful government strategy that is almost collecting dust and needs funding for effective coordination of the GBV response. Number 2, we need you to allocate funding to GBV service providers who are providing essential service, and not restricted to government, but also the private and also the civil society organizations. I'm going to give you some ideas on where you can invest within the referral pathway. So you need to invest in safety and security services. For example, funding a police hotline that women can call if they're experiencing violence. You need to support organizations that are providing medical and psychosocial care and support. These are family support centers within clinical setups, within hospitals. And from what we've heard yesterday, if you have those support services in the provincial level, if you have an arm of the clinical support in the districts, you could reach out to the women. Or you could even support organizations that are providing social protection. For example, build safe houses, fund safe houses. You could extend the work of organizations, for example, like City Mission, to scale out to the provinces, to work with young people, to work with youths, and help them change behaviors. You could invest in investigative services. And for example, we were talking about the police family sexual violence unit. It would be good if you can resource them, if you could resource the 39 police family sexual violence units across the city to perform their role and functions. Even if it means supporting police manpower so that they can support prosecution of perpetrators of violence. You can invest in the justice system. For example, we heard from Dr. Kua, who is trying to support the 8,000 village court officials to perform their community policing functions. So these are police village court officials who have direct contact with majority of the women population in the rural areas. If you could capacitate them, you could reach in terms of access to justice. The child protection services, it came out strong. There needs to be social workers across all essential service providers. From best practices, from what's working, social workers provide the necessary support for victims of family violence as well as child abuse. Or finally, you could support community-based organizations, women's-led organizations who are currently here, and I could hear them screaming before this presentation. You could support them to advocate, to reach out to the majority of the women's population in the rural areas. GBV is a significant obstacle to PNG's development and prosperity, but as nicely put by Dr. Kaur, the government needs to invest where it matters, and that is to address the GBV epidemic that's destroying and affecting family life. Family life should matter. And the last outcome statement from this session, we want you to provide leadership on ending violence against women and children. If women make over 55% of PNG's population, they deserve the right to live in a free society, free of violence. As designated leaders, as our brothers, as our fathers, as fathers of daughters, it is your duty to ensure women of this country are protected and valued as equal partners. This means advocating for tougher penalties for perpetrators of violence and holding the men folks accountable for their behavior within your areas of authority. It's a call out to the leaders to walk the talk and to ensure women are supported throughout to achieve their full potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maria, Program Specialist, UN Women. The outcomes for Session 3A. As we move on, I'd like to call up onto the podium to present or to read the outcomes out of Session 3B. Could you all please make welcome Ms. Mayor Isaac, Commissioner, NCDC.
Good morning, members of the Parliamentary Coalition, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. Session 3B, Prevention Strategies that Engage Men and Boys as Allies and Partners. Preventative actions focused on promoting equal and respectful relationships between men and women, non-violent norms, and reducing the effects of prior exposure to violence and improving access to the resources are needed to step away from violence. Our outcome statement is as follows. 1, to prevent GBV, the government needs to invest financial and human resources in positive social norm change and reduce the risks that result in this violence. 2, this includes interventions that engage men and boys. This work must recognize that men and boys have their own experiences of violence which contribute to the cycle of violence, and that this work must be informed by women's voices and their experiences to male violence. 3, existing policies and legislation need to be adequately resourced and implemented now. 4, education is central to promoting positive social norm change and reducing the risks that lead to high rates of GBV. Government needs to immediately, large-scale invest in the education system to do this, and this includes mainstreaming curriculum that examines discriminatory gender norms and roles, fosters healthy, non-violent relationships and positive sexual and reproductive health, especially amongst boys and young men, involve churches, NGOs, parents, and community in this education. Support for teachers to have the skills to recognize and respond to the needs of children, including those experiencing violence. uninterrupted education opportunities for all students up until year 12 and those who wish to pursue higher education, ensure opportunities for youth in pursuing non-traditional educational such as technical and vocation continued learning, linked education to employment opportunities. We have a lot of grade 8, grade 10, grade 12 who are coming out because their GPAs do not allow us. So these skills that they can get in vocational training will allow them to continue either going forward into field work, which they can do, and those that have that interest. Some of us parents, some of us leaders push people to attend programs or courses that they're not interested in, and that's why we have a whole lot of our children that are outside and that do not want to learn anything that's within the classroom if they are field-oriented and field-minded persons. 5, strengthen the judicial system to enforce existing legislation and, where necessary, revise existing laws and/or introduce new laws that outlaw practices such as compensation and maintain confidentiality of all partners. Whether you're the perpetrator or you're the victim, confidentiality must be maintained at all times. Raise awareness and information on existing legislation on violence so they can know their rights and understand the legal consequences of their actions. 6, ensure sexual and reproductive health rights, invest in accessible family planning for all. Protect and promote women's rights, women to decide if they should fall pregnant, women to decide how many children they have, women to decide where and when they can have children. 7, invest to support women's empowerment, including the financial independence through income earning and employment opportunities such as the SME and women associations that have been launched recently by our good member for Moresby Northeast. 8, support programs for youth and children that foster skills in self-reflection, emotional intelligence, and to make positive decisions in their life. 9, women must be counted on and supported to participate, develop, and contribute to decision-making at all levels. Government reserves seats for women in Parliament with a maximum limit of 3 to 4 terms. Open reserve seats to female-only candidates through a competitive democratic process. Last but not the least, all men, including political leaders, must work together with women as equal partners. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and the coalition government.
Thank you, Commissioner Mayor Isaac. For now, though, I'd like to call up to the podium for the presentation for Session 4, Rapporteur Ms. Danielle Winfrey, Program Manager, BLEC. Could you please all make her feel welcome? Thank you.
Good morning, esteemed leaders. Thank you for your time this morning. Good morning, everyone. Indeed, this is a historical moment. And it is a proud moment because for us who have been in this space for a long time, this is the culmination of years and years of hard work. Ms. Wainetti has already said, I came in as a young girl under their wings, and to stand here today to give our recommendations to our leaders is something that we have all been really looking forward to. So, from Session 4, the key outcome recommendations that we have from the status of case management systems in PNG is, 1, we recommend to the government to create a central-based data system that is cross-sectoral to manage cases so the cases do not fall through gaps and survivors are not re-traumatized. Listening to all the recommendations that came out, it all comes together in what is already in place. We have the National GBV strategy. We need that to be resourced and implemented through the Department of Community Development with the Department of Justice. That really needs to be reviewed, and we ask for political leadership for that to take place. So instrumental in that is the setting up of the central database to coordinate cases through the referral pathway. 2, we have heard the call from the human rights defenders time and again, and there are many here in this room this morning. We call for the human rights defenders' work to be supported and to be recognized by government. We can talk about the technicalities of it. Please call a stakeholder consultation if you need to do that, to hear what they have to say. We recommend 3, we recommend one-stop shopping center for addressing GBV. So that includes the resourcing of family sexual violence units throughout the provinces. We have piloted 4 provinces already. This was an NEC directive. What about the rest of Papua New Guinea? Provincial leaders need to take this up. We need direction. Governor Powers Parkop has been leading this. But it must not stop there. It is only by working together through partnership, through a cross-sectoral approach, that we will effectively address GBV. We recommend flexible long-term funding for the Department for Community Development, especially in the provinces, because that is the first point of contact. That is the first point of contact. And with that, we need strong accountability and transparency mechanisms to ensure that the funds that are allocated need to go to the people that need it. We recommend the government looks at resourcing the existing family support centers, because initially the concept around that was a one-stop shop. That needs to be reviewed and that needs to be resourced. We don't have women in parliament to talk for us. It's through forums like this that you hear our cry. Please look at resourcing the family support centers. We have heard over and over again that family sexual violence units in the Royal PNG Constabulary need to be resourced. Right now, they are standalone. They need to be endorsed by NEC. If we have political leadership to push for that, we hope to get the funding that the police needs through the family sexual violence unit to do their work. Safe houses need to be resourced, especially in the rural areas. Right now, there is no legal or policy framework for safe houses. We need that to be set up to safeguard safe houses as well. We have the Family Protection Act. How does that tie into everything? What mechanisms do we have in place to look after children who have been abused? We need that to be looked at. So we call for legal and policy frameworks to strengthen response towards survivors of violence, and also for those who have gone. We had a moment of silence. They need to have justice as well, closure, their families. A lot of this work is done by NGOs and faith-based organizations. They need to be supported as well. Leaders through the SIP, PSIP, if you can please factor them into your planning and budgeting processes, support them. We need long-term sustainability. What is sustainability? NGOs, donors can come and go, but government is here to stay. We need you to take ownership of this, please. So as part of the national GBV strategy, we have been talking about database management systems. We also need case management. Case management systems to be put in place. We need We need skilled people for that. We heard from Family PNG as a case management operator. We need government to support, provide investment in this area to equip officers to be able to do this work, stand up for survivors, know how to sensitively deal with survivors of violence. Because when people are traumatized, when they're scared, and they come forward and they're not, the first experience is not always good, they will shut down or they will not reach out for help. And finally, I would like to take this opportunity to remind our leaders that we have, as part of the global community, adapted the Sustainable Development Goals, gender equality being one of them, SDG 5. It's ingrained in our MTDP 3. It's part of our planning. What key indicators can we... Right now, the key indicators are not great for PNG. There's no women in parliament. Until 2022, what can we do about that? We have been calling for women's voice representation to come through the debate around temporary special measures. There's, pros and there's good and there's bad, but it's not an equal playing field. And temporary special measures are just that they're temporary. If we can have our parliamentarians, our leaders, to really have in-depth debate on this and fully understand the impact that it has on our 50% of the population, of our population are women. And if 50% of the population are not empowered to contribute to development, that itself is an indicator of how we are not developing going forward. So with that, my good leaders, we hope today has been fruitful for us to come here before you, and we would like you to take these recommendations forward for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winfrey. Finally, the rapporteur for the youth side event, to read her statement, could you please make welcome from Stand Up One Time, Ms. Salimata Mitaharo.
We honor the custodians of the land that we stand on, the indigenous people of the Motu-Koitabu people, the past leaders, present, and aspiring. Coalition members, ladies and gentlemen, young people, and partners for development. Here is the youth statement, outcome statement. You will notice that because young people believe in gender equality, the youth statement is presented by a male representative and a female representative. And I am David Aneka Lawrence, by the way, assisting Salimata. We, the 121 youth representatives from 13 provinces, namely of Morobe, Milne Bay, East Sepik, Eastern Highlands, Western Highlands, East New Britain, Chimbu, Hela, Southern Highlands, the Autonomous Region of Bougainville, Jiwaka, Enga, and the National Capital District Metropolitan Province have gathered here at the APEC House, Port Moresby, on the 8th of November 2020 representing all the youth in Papua New Guinea, to voice our concerns on equality. We uphold the 7 guiding principles of the Declaration of the Independent State of Papua New Guinea, the Constitution 1974, and we understand the fundamental guidelines that supports our standing as key partners contributing to the nation building with a special focus on eradicating all forms of violence in our society. We acknowledge the existing strategies and frameworks in place that drive the movement for equality at all levels and all sectors: individuals, communities, institutions, and national leaders who use their influence and dedicate their time towards fighting for equality, peace, and justice. Out from the youth side event, here are some of the observations that Salimata will have to present.
We, the youth, have noted that we note the rapid changes in PNG society and increasing inequality, and this location does impact violence in our societies. Importance of youth preserving identity and culture, but addressing the root causes of violence. We realize the importance of youth learn from the values and practices of equality from the past to bring back them today, and the critical role and responsibilities of the youth leading to change. We have also noted the challenges of continued access to education and family support is enabling girls and young women to lead change and be safe and supported when they step up. We have noted that wisdom of our older generation of leaders is vital for young activists in driving the agenda of equality through their influence, their continued support for young voices and spaces forged for them. We have noted that the cycle of violence against children is inherited into adulthood and is included in intimate partner relationships. We have also noted that the role of activism has transformed as violence is increasingly being able to be captured through modern technology, which has increased awareness, reporting, and documentation of violence through social media platforms and mainstream media, where young people are actively engaged. We have also noted that the role of technology in providing a means for youth to raise their voices and create space for themselves. However, noted that actions need to happen offline to make a change in reality. Social media alone is not sufficient. There is a need to ensure young people have access to accurate information and education about right types of violence, redefining masculinity, breaking gender stereotypes, and the setbacks caused by violence in society. We know that the true government accountability needs government and policymakers to strategize on sustainable development programs that respond to gender-based violence. We have noted the importance of the need to support children to set boundaries and foster empathy for others. A lot of work related to early detection and prevention of violence starts with children knowing what a respectful relationship is and identifying the safe spaces as well. Teachers in school need to be able to recognize and respond to children who are experiencing violence in their classes. We have noted GBV strategy was created to ensure that government departments, NGOs, and the country as a whole try to address the issue of GBV in a coordinated and cohesive way. The existence of FSVU are a result of this. The issue is not the absence of the strategy, but it's the implementation, resourcing, and monitoring. There is still not whole of organization approach. This can be seen is the inconsistent approach by FSVU around the country. We have noted the lack of consistency in implementation arises out of inadequate financial and human resourcing, lack of clarity of directives from a national level to a local level. The government needs to issue clear directives coupled with substantial financial and human resource for implementation, enforcement, and delivery. Young people need to know the laws that protect us while understanding that we have to inform our MPs, lobby for a practical intervention. We have noted there is a need for young men and women to be informed about rights and equality so they can make well-informed, respectful choices regarding sexual and intimate relationships. We've noted that the need for a strong oversight for children's access to technology, where parents need to accept that children today have access to information and experiences related to sex, more so in the past due to excess of the technology. Parents need to be open and prepared to address this, to reduce the risk of children experiencing harm and violence as they seek to explore. We have also noted that there is a need for a strong oversight, pardon me, I read that already, the consistent engagement of young people in the cyberspace. This opens up the risk of online and technology-facilitated violence. It comes down to the home and parenting, fostering values, morals, respect, empathy, and critical thinking in children so they are equipped to use technology for the right purposes and to protect themselves from its worst aspects. We have noted that the role of the National Youth Development Authority and its mandate and recognize the responsibility to connect and ensure the entry points of engagement for young people is well coordinated and inclusive. We've noted that the special case of youth issues and the governing structures of the autonomous region of Bougainville are quite different from Papua New Guinea, and through the youth representatives in this summit, support the youth of Papua New Guinea in these recommendations. Finally, we have noted that human rights and equality knows no boundaries of religion, political opinion, race, color, sex, gender, caste, status in society. Violence does affect everybody, and now is the time to act today.
And with the passion of all of these noted during the summit, here are the recommendations that we are proposing, not only to our coalition members, but also to the business houses, institutions that are responsible, the churches. And so here are the recommendations for the government. We call for the government to commit funds to support effective programs that seek to address violence and achieve equality. While there is a host of quality development programs, they are not sustainable. And so there is a need to support these programs in long term. Our second recommendation is to amend the Organic Law on Provincial and Local Level Government 2014, which enables the DDA Act to include provisions for youth inclusion in rural and urban governance structures of decision-making at the DDA board and the provincial executive, which sets the leeway for youth council networks. We also call on our coalition members to push to ratify the Convention Against Torture and the United Nations Covenant on the Civil and Political Rights, which is a leeway for women into parliament. Our fourth recommendation is that we know that the gender-based violence strategy needs to be implemented and monitored, but government needs to commit financial and human resources for the rollout of the GBV strategy. And this needs to be tracked by a commitment to specific results in the immediate, medium, and long-term timelines. We call on the government to provide specialized services for children, pardon me, not for the government, but to address for the providence of specialized services for children as an immediate priority. And this requires uniform standards in all schools to ensure that safety of children in schools need to be safe spaces for both boys and girls. And teachers need to be supported to be able to recognize and respond to the needs of children that are experiencing violence. And these gaps in implementation of laws where there is no specialized services for children. Our final recommendation to the government is to be held accountable, to make measurable commitments for the implementation of gender-based violence strategy, and the need to create an enabling environment for young people to stand up for change. This is a recommendation to the business houses, is that we ask that when you invest in our country, make sure that your social corporate responsibility in the private sector is aligned to gender-based violence response initiatives in society. We did not come here only to ask from our government. We have to hold each other accountable. And therefore, we are also calling on institutions as well. For the Department of Community Development, please revisit the welfare and social services to ensure their resourcing and financing of social workers, mental health clinics and rehabilitation, not only in Port Moresby and urban areas, but in the deep inner rural areas where resources are scarce. We also call on organizations that are responsible in rolling out humanitarian work. We call on organizations to have social work and workplace guidelines and code of practice in place when dealing with youth with the respect of confidentiality. Very often, young people's issues have become an open book, which causes the bandwagon of how people get to fight on social media and how we get to craft that narrative of violence in our society. We also call on the Department of Education to review its education curriculum, integrated value-based education that includes the civic education of youth to learn about their constitution, their human rights, and teachers have to be trained in terms of this education service delivery. We call upon the community development as well for their consistency and infrastructure establishment for social services in the deep and inner rural areas, to be specific, where some of the buildings and infrastructure have deteriorated since colonial times. We also call upon everyone to recognize and support all human rights defenders, as they are the link at the community level, implementing and providing referral pathways. We also call upon the community development to fund and resource provincial FSVU to have a rapid response within 8 to 24 hours and standard operating procedures, which some of the services lack at the provincial level. We call upon the Department of Justice and Attorney General to revisit the juvenile justice centers in the rural areas and their programs infrastructures, because very often juvenile justice does not have space for underage children in prison and are put together in the adults' prison where they experience sexual, physical, and mental abuse. This is also an open call to everyone to recognize halfway houses and rehabilitation centers, because once our young people who come in conflict with the law, they need a second chance to get back into society. And that's where healing takes place. We also call upon institutions responsible to have to prioritize for pathways to education for youth volunteers for change. You will recognize that many of our youth volunteers who are carrying out social work don't have a well-education background or qualification. And therefore, we need young people to be empowered in that area as well. We call upon successful organizations to replicate their very wonderful programs, not only in the urban areas, but replicate that in the rural areas and share best practices as well. We call upon all government departments to mainstream youth, to have youth desks in each province and their youth hubs, so that young people are also included in leadership. And finally, for institutions, is that we have to come from a place of value. And like I made mention in the previous discussion, that very often gender-based violence is whitewashed or pinkwashed. And so that means that we have to revisit our values by indigenous wisdom to drive peace building in societies, known as the PNG ways stipulated in our constitution. This final recommendation goes out to the churches. We call upon the churches to understand inclusive development that is not biased on the belief of their faith and accept all youth, regardless of political opinion, sex, gender, social status, disability, race, religion, and color. And because we are a generation that's not only making demands, we must be held accountable too. And therefore, we hereby state our commitments.
We the youths have committed to continuing the conversation of equality and leading with influence, capitalizing on the existing network of youth volunteers and reaching out to other youth organizations to invest our time, effort to make equality a reality, actively contributing to organizations to invest our time, through positive change, through volunteerism and different levels of engagement and environment, and to commit to the change we would want to see. We commit to consulting and raising awareness call on youth to develop specific demands and asks from a local through to the national level to push for change. We have committed to using international treaties that the government has signed to hold them accountable. They are legally binding documents that require us to change our national laws to comply. We need to be informed in order to hold government account to this, and lobby and advocate government to be in compliance with these obligations. Finally, we commit to holding the coalition accountable to follow up and follow through on this outcome statement.
And in conclusion, young people are not the leaders of tomorrow. We are the leaders of today and the shapers of tomorrow. And let me remind our leaders here that our voices should not be tokenized nor politicized. We understand that our responsibility as partners for development and believe in the value of intergenerational dialogues with our leaders so that we are not to be spoken to, but to be heard as well. As stated by Dame Carol Kidu during our dialogue, and I quote, "Just like the bird of paradise as our national emblem, it cannot fly with one wing, which is of patriarchy, but is balanced by another wing, which is the understanding of feminism in our society, in order for the bird to spread its both wings and fly."
And to conclude with the statement from David Aoneka Lawrence Rupa, I quote, "Similarly, we are on our Lakatoy boat as a nation, on a voyage to achieving equality. Our older generation navigates the Southern Cross with your wisdom, while we young people paddle with our energy. When the winds blow and the currents swell, we do not fight each other, but communicate and adjust our sail." Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah? Well, it's up to the coalition now how they address that, but can we thank these powerful, young, aspiring leaders of Papua New Guinea? There you go. Ms. Salimata Mitahara from Sanap one time, she obviously was accompanied by David Lawrence Auneka Rupa from the National Youth Development Authority. David also, he himself is an advocate on youth issues. There you go. The statements have been read, and of course the National Coalition of Parliamentarians to End Gender-Based Violence, part of it here on the stage, will be deliberating or going through that in a moment from now. And the final statement, of course, will be read by the co-chairs, Governors Parkop and Bird, a little later. For now, though, I have the pleasure of inviting His Excellency, Mr. Gianluca Rampolla, United Nations Resident Coordinator to PNG, to offer his remarks on behalf of the United Nations. Please make him feel welcome.
Just to Salimata and David, you make my life impossible, because taking stage after you is just absolutely impossible. And so, coalition leaders, I won't be diplomatic. I wish in the flow of Parliament this would be the level and the depth of the discussions. This is outstanding. If you allow me, I'll start by talking and looking on this side, and really thanking. I really can't see you because I have the spots on me, but I can only see the heads. It's first to start and congratulating you, really, starting from the youth. We saw each other on Sunday morning, and when I went up there to open your session, I said, take the opportunity, make yourself heard. We heard you. Everyone heard you. Loud and clear. You said it. You're the leaders of today and the shapers of tomorrow. And you have given the government and the leaders here on the stage a blueprint to take with them in their pocket to Parliament this afternoon. We also started by saying that the diversity of this country is the strength, and you said it yourself. Your cultural diversity, age diversity, gender diversity, belief diversity, sexual preference diversity, that's the strength. And you've represented all of it here as a movement. Congratulations to all of you. Let's move it forward. The second is women and civil society representatives. We know that in PNG, 50% or more of all services are delivered by civil society and churches. And you're here. You've been, John, you were the other one. I walked in as you were speaking. You had people standing up and shouting for you. I mean, if that voice, we could hear it here, we could hear it out in the villages, but even more importantly, we could hear it in Parliament. Imagine what a difference that voice will make. And we know that civil society is fundamental and is under-resourced, and that resources are needed for you to continue building civil conscience and keep on delivering services to the ones that need the most. In this case, women, children, the most vulnerable ones. So thanks again to civil society and for the risks, the courage you took in taking center stage to talk issues that are very difficult to you, because I know that many of you are survivors. We've just heard in the run-up of the 6 different groups a real roadmap that I think the coalition of leaders can take with them to Parliament. And I won't go back into the different details, but there are some common features that cut across, and I tried to pick them up. First of all, that to be able to address gender-based violence effectively, you need to tackle it at all levels. It ain't going to work if you just deal with it in Waigani. Ain't going to work if you deal with it only at provincial level. You have to go all the way down to your wards. It has to cut across all sectors. Ain't going to work if you just look at it from one perspective, because it's a whole of system challenge that ultimately will only succeed if we are able to change our behaviors and social norms at their heart. We need to create space. We need to give space for you women and for young women and men to decide, to be at the table at taking decision in all aspects of your daily life, from the economic to the political space. And all of the groups repeated the same thing. There needs to be women at the helm, at the highest level of decision-making in Parliament. And I think we've heard now and again the commitment of our leaders to ensuring that in 2022, at least there are going to be some temporary special measures to allow women to be in Parliament, because we need that voice on that floor. But nothing of this can be done without funds. You need money. And you are actually going to walk out of here and go into Parliament to discuss the budget. So I guess that's where you're going to, that's where the, you know, where the reality will hit the ground. What comes out of the Parliament deliberations over the next 2 weeks will speak as to the credibility of what comes out of this seminar. And now to you, dear leaders, you've chosen this theme. Now is the time, United for Equality, and I think the most important part of it is now is the time. It is really now. There is no time to wait. And I remember in discussions, Governor Parko, when I wrote you, I would message you said, Gianluca, we cannot wait anymore. You're right. Nobody can wait anymore, especially not the women, not the children that are being abused, as there is no tomorrow. So there is indeed, that is the time now, and it is the time for you leaders to take the wealth of recommendations that have come from this discussion, take them to you, to Parliament. The stakes are high. Make sure that in Parliament, in Cabinet, in provinces, in districts, we move from talk to walk. Actually, we move from talk to run, and we start implementing. And I know that I was asked only to provide a thank you, so now I'm going to thank you. I'm going to thank you for this initiative. This would have not happened without your initiative. Thank you for creating the space and the platform. As a UN, we've been proud to support you. The Spotlight Initiative has among one of its key objectives to help create a movement, and this is the backbone of the movement that is starting here today. We remain, as United Nations, fully committed to support you leaders in your commitment, and I think that the statement you will agree on provides for an accountability document that everyone can hold us accountable to, and we are here to support you to drive this agenda and to implement it. So thank you so much. Thanks for your leadership, and congratulations to all of you for what you've been able to do over these last 2 days.
Thank you, Your Excellency, United Nations Resident Coordinator, Mr. Gianluca Rampolla. For now, we've come to the end, the final, but it's not the complete end until the document or the statements have been signed by our members of Parliament. So, yes, there you go. Parliamentarians will deliberate the final statement together, perhaps, and of course, one of the two co-chairs, including Governor Parkop or Governor Bird, will read the final statement. The shuffling things, of course, tables will be set up in a way, and the podium perhaps brought up to the front, or maybe up to the side, for the signing of the statements. And I'd like to invite the media perhaps to come and take shots of this, because we'd like to see almost everything go up in the front pages and on the radio stations and television stations as well. All right, so let's start keeping the check and balance as it gets signed today. All right. Okay, we are all right, gentlemen. Okay. Give them a bit more time. They're only as human as we are. We all are, yes. But they realize how important these statements are, and it's upon them to take the push over and see how this actually works its way around on the floor of Parliament. Thank you, Governor Bird.
Yeah,
I got to give time to Governor Pakop to get organized. Let me start while that is going on to acknowledge all of you, especially those champions, mostly women, who have been doing amazing work in this space for many, many decades. Let me acknowledge you first and foremost. Let me also acknowledge all those families and individuals who have experienced violence at one time or another. We are doing this for you, and hopefully we can, in time, spare others the pain and the suffering that many have already suffered. Those of us sitting on this stage also, I think, have experienced violence, gender-based violence at one time or another, so you are not alone. I know many of you did not get the opportunity to speak here today, but I think others spoke well for you, and we heard. There are just over 20 members of parliament who have come together for this. You see 6 of us here up on stage. You've heard others, you've seen them come and go. We come from different provinces. We represent different political parties. But on this issue, we are united. We are here voluntarily. There is no government mechanism at the parliamentary level for this. We have been speaking separately on issues of violence and gender violence on the floor, and it was through the leadership of Governor Powes Pakop who decided to provide a platform for us. You have 3 senior members of parliament sitting up front, Honorable Charles Abel, Honorable Powes Pakop, and Honorable Jufa. The other 3 are first-term members of parliament. But this again shows that we are united on one issue. GBV and violence in general impacts the vulnerable members of our society, especially the women and the girls and the children. But I want to say this, GBV is not a women's issue. GBV is an issue for all of us. So as I stand here, I think we all recognize that it's time to stop talking and it's time to start acting. We have a broken system, ladies and gentlemen. When you talk about the police, when you talk about provincial governments, a lot of our civil service, and I talk about the public servants themselves, all of our systems are broken. And while GBV is a very important issue, it has fallen through the cracks because we are still struggling to deal with many other issues. The focus of government is usually almost always on infrastructure, education, law and order. Everything else, including the economy, does not even rate a mention. And so issues like gender-based violence continue to fall further and further down. But I want to say this, whatever may have happened in the past, let's leave that and let's move forward from here. For me, I was on the campaign trail, and I want to tell this personal story, just so that you know that we are human too. We're not just members of parliament. In 2017, while I was out campaigning, a young lady lost her life. I never knew her, I never met her, but she was a friend of my daughter's. They went to school together. I came home in the afternoon very tired, and I got a hysterical phone call from my eldest daughter. She was crying, and she mentioned the name Ruby Ann Laufa. I didn't know who she was, but she affected my daughter's life. And my daughter said to me, Then, what kind of country is this where my friends can get killed by their partners? Is this the country that myself and other girls are going to grow up and live in? I didn't know how to respond to my daughter. But I made myself a promise that if I got into parliament, I would stand up for women and girls. Mi bin talk aste, mi play no yau pass, mi play no I pass. We read the materials, we hear the stories, and it affects us because we also have heart. We are humans just like you. And I remember the call from some of the women when they write. I think Rebecca Kuku wrote something that was very touching, and she said, "Where are our men? Where are our fathers, brothers, uncles, husbands, sons? We are here for you." I think Governor Pakop is ready now. I'll give him the podium.
Thank you, my co-chair, fellow members of the Coalition of Parliamentarians Against Gender-Based Violence, High Commissioner for Solomon Islands and Chairman of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Rapola, Country Coordinator for United Nations and all the United Nations agencies, all distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. 1.5 days is definitely inadequate for us to thoroughly address this major human rights and development challenge facing our nation. We've had so many expressions yesterday and today from leaders and from you all unsung heroes in the front line, going about daily, laboring away, doing your job, doing all you can with passion, just driving you. We had this morning too from our representative from Goroka, very passionate, expressing all the pains and hardship that different NGOs, community-based organizations, all the heroes and heroines out there who have been addressing this major challenge facing our people and our nation. As I said, it's inadequate for us to give platform to everyone. But we all have heard you. We leaders now coming together in this coalition, we have taken this pledge to take serious steps to address gender-based violence because we hear you. We feel your pain. We feel your trauma. And we want to make a difference. And today we are going to make a difference together. "45 years on, we have not and are not doing very well. All our development index are very poor. On equality, we are 161 out of 162 countries. On literacy, we are not doing very well. On infant mortality, we are not doing very well. On longevity, our people are not living long. We are dying at 56 to 60. That's very poor outcome. Our country has a lot of potential, all the resources, much, much more than many countries in our region and around the world. But we keep still failing and underachieving. What is obvious from this summit today And what we should take forward is this, that our country will not prosper, will not reach its full potential without women who are the pillars of our nation. Sadly, 45 years on, we have not only left women behind and out of all the spaces, but we have subjected them to so much violence. In our country today, violence is prevailing everywhere. All forms of violence. Tribal violence, socially accusatory violence, street violence, ethnic violence, and gender-based violence. But what we must, all these forms of violence cost our country so much in all ways, personally, psychologically, economically, financially, it affects all of us. But the difference about gender-based violence is this, that all the other violence occurs only occasionally. Periodic ones. Ethnic violence comes up once and it's off. Tribal violence, once and it's off. Gender-based violence affects women and girls of our country, especially every day. Every day. This is the seriousness of gender-based violence. Not only that, it's holding the potential of our country, 50% of our country, back. And unless we do and take serious steps to overcome gender-based violence, we will not realize the full potential of our country. And this is why we have summoned you all, leaders of our country, these members of our coalition, to join you all so that we can make a real difference and turn the tide around, change the dynamic, so that we can realize the potential that our country is capable of. Women of our country, since ancestral times, have been held in high regard. They have been pillars of our nation, of our people. This call for equality is not something new. In our country, there are parts of our country that are based on matrilineal culture and system. Bougainville, New Ireland, the New Britain, East and West, Milne Bay, some other parts of our country are matrilineal. Women own the property. They inherit the property. They are held in high regard. Even in the patrilineal, all the money or save, all by no names was merino star. All by nobody. In the patrilineal communities, the women, they are wealth creators. They maintain social cohesion. All walk in garden, look out in pig, walk him, all get us something, money, him glory, nothing. This is the potential of half our population that we are missing out. And we need to harness this potential in not just economic, but in all space. Because when we harness this potential, we will realize what this country is capable of. This is the more compelling reasons why we must address GBV. Because we will unleash the potential of our people and our country. We will secure that goal and vision that is eluding us for 45 years. Men and women, boys and girls, working together, respecting each other, putting our minds and our intellect and our abilities and our energy and our creativity together, we can arrive. And it starts now. Today, let's make a pledge, all of us. We leaders, we are here to support you all, work with you all. Let's work as one team, overcoming all the barriers, recognizing our equal potential, recognizing that it's not just a constitutional call. It's not just in our constitution that it calls for equality. It's not just the preamble of our constitution, our goals and directive principles. It's also part of our being as Papua New Guineans. It's in our culture. It's in our way of life. It should define us going forward from now on. So I thank each and every one of you for coming today to conclude this first ever National Summit. It's a beginning. It should be the start of more and more such discussion and dialogues and action going forward. We have had the benefit of Prime Minister coming here, ministers coming, Minister for Community Development addressing us, number of ministers in our coalition addressing us. We have had the benefit to, at the highest international level ever, the Deputy Secretary General has addressed our summit. This is a very powerful summit that should turn the tide for all of us. So I will now invite my co-chair on behalf of the coalition to read to us the outcome statement. I will help him, of course, but he will come and deliver the outcome statement that we will adopt, and all of us here will sign as our outcome to empower us to go forward from here on. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Statement. I will now read the agreed statement, which is the outcome of this auspicious gathering of like-minded individuals brought together for a very important and noble cause. It starts, Coalition of Parliamentarians to End Gender-Based Violence. Now is the time. United for Equality. The first National Summit on Ending Gender-Based Violence, November 10th, 2020, APEC House, Port Moresby. The outcome statement reads, we, the members of the Coalition of Parliamentarians, are committed to end gender-based violence. We have a vision of Papua New Guinea where all women and girls can fully participate in the political, economic, cultural, and social life with all the rights and privileges bestowed upon them as citizens of our great nation. We recognize that women have been the pillars of our nation since ancient times. They are the wealth creators, they maintain social cohesion, and are held in high regard in our communities. In the matrilineal areas of our country, women are the property owners. This power and the role of women must be recognized and harnessed for the greater progress of our country. Extending their powerful role into all sectors, including politics. Even our patrilineal heritage recognizes women as the backbone of our society. We know that to address gender-based violence, we must address gender equality. And men and boys must learn to stand beside women and girls as allies and partners. This is not a new agenda or paradigm. This notion of women as leaders and pillars of our country is embedded in our culture and traditions, as well as in our constitution and national goals and guiding principles. Removing the barriers that prevent women and girls from achieving their potential and living their dreams will remove the same barriers that are holding our nation back from succeeding on the global stage. With women and girls free of the shackles that now bind them, our nation will be unstoppable. We know that women's inequality is an issue that affects us all. This is not only a human rights issue, it is an economic imperative. We cannot reach our full potential as a country when half of our people are marginalized and denied full inclusion and participation. We know that the full inclusion of women boosts our economy, increases our productivity, and reduces child poverty. We know that addressing women's equity requires all social agents, individuals, organizations, and all levels of government to take intentional steps towards this goal. Our coalition is committed to take positive action within our jurisdictions and encourage others to do the same. We know that access to basic socio-economic supports is a crucial step for increasing women's safety, security, well-being, independence, and rights and freedoms. Access to stable housing, secure employment, infrastructure like streetlights, safe markets, and easily accessed water and sanitation, and financial resources greatly contribute to whether or not a woman is able to fully participate in society and successfully leave situations of violence and vulnerability. We aim to make our jurisdictions gold standards in gender equality and ending gender-based violence, starting with ourselves. And we'll use our power, our voices, and influence to disrupt and demand change. We look to a new adage. We do not want the power to accept that we cannot change. Instead, we embrace our power to change what we cannot accept. We know that those with education are offered the greatest chance to not just succeed personally, but also to succeed for our country, and that this is critical for our women and girls to advance and gain independence. We aim to ensure that there are pathways to support our young people to achieve their dreams and to find the support to grow healthy, violence-free relationships. We invite the private sector to join us. We will seek to direct our attention on young people in relationships who are struggling. We know that women and girls need to be able to claim the rights of their own bodies, to decide when and where and with whom they plan their families. We know that the consent to sexual activities must lie with both parties, and for women and girls to have access to clear information, services, and the necessary tools to protect themselves from having unwanted children. Our private sector leaders, in particular, have shown to be a tremendous voice, well ahead of the national government, and support in addressing gender-based violence because they have long seen how gender-based violence affects their ability to run their businesses. Given the rates of violence amongst salaried women, we need to work to up the game of the private sector broadly and find ways to collaborate. We invite all other programming focused on directly ending gender-based violence, as well as those programs focused on the root causes, to join us. Collaborate with us, align with us, and integrate their programs with us. Join voices with ours, so that our collective result is more than what any one of us can hope to achieve alone. We know we need to partner and bring together all of the institutions, companies, agencies, civil society groups, and people who believe in ending violence against women and girls. We need to combine our voices into a common, consistent, loud, and disruptive message that demands and secures change. We believe that for our country, nation, and people to succeed, we must be guided by and hold on to values that will maintain our decisions and actions to high standards. Making decisions and spending resources without regarding these values or vision will result in poor outcomes. For Papua New Guinea, these values are pronounced clearly in the 5 national goals and directive principles of the national constitution. Prominent in these inspiration goals and directive principles is the call for equality. As such, we are guided by the lofty vision of the national goals and directive principles set out at the very birth of our country as an independent nation. These are the values and principles that should define our country and guide all activities of the state and its institutions, and as such, we use them to guide our own. You, Commander. Thank you.
Give a big hand to Governor Bed, my co-chair. Thank you. I will help him because, you know, no, I'm all right. The statement is quite long, but we try to capture all the aspiration and all the energy that has come out of this 1.5 days of dialogue and discussion. Before I continue with the outcome statement, let me, at this juncture, acknowledge Madam Toroama, wife of the newly elected president of the Autonomous Region of Bougainville, who has graced us with a presence. Thank you, Madam. And of course, Madam Marapetu is here, wife of our Prime Minister. Thank you, Madam, for being with us for these 2 days. I will now go on to the resolutions that the coalition, gathering from all the dialogue and sentiments and expression we have tried to formulate, and I hope, and we hope that captures what you all have raised in the last 1.5 days. We, the members of the Parliamentary Coalition to End Gender-Based Violence, agree to 1, meet annually to host a national summit to address gender-based violence, where we will hear and discuss the status of women and girls in our nation and agree to an annual set of goals and action plan at provincial, regional, and national levels. Second, we agree to develop a monitoring body or secretariat that will track and provide an annual report on status of the national and provincial strategies, and more broadly, on the status of gender equality, gender-based violence, and women and girls in general in our nation. 2, we will develop, resource, and actionize provincial and district strategies and tactical plans to promote gender equality and to end to gender-based violence, and to share this with each other and report out on the status annually. 4, we will support the adoption of the National and Provincial Gender-Based Violence Council, or GVV Council, structured in line with the successful national structure used to address HIV/AIDS in Papua New Guinea. Number 5, we will support the police and demand and ensure that they are properly resourced, trained, and equipped to address gender-based violence and all accountable and be held accountable for their actions. 6, we will collaborate to create across provinces. Sorry, I will read it again. We will collaborate to create across provinces to create a seamless system of sharing real-time cross-management data on gender-based violence. Number 7, we will develop and implement on strategies to engage men and boys as allies and partners in promoting gender equality and stopping gender-based violence, and agree to be role models and to lead the change. Number 8, we will instigate curriculum in schools on gender equality, conflict resolution, relationship management, and gender-based violence strategies to help the generation to follow us to grow up violent-free. Number 9, we will implement provincial and district level coordination and governance mechanism as guides as guided by provincial GBV strategies and action plan. Number 10, we will develop national and cross-provincial and district coordination mechanism with legally agreed protocols on data sharing around GBV cases, perpetrators, and survivors. Number 11, we agreed to develop, resource, and implement strong family planning services in our provinces and districts to ensure that women and girls have the right to choose when, where, and with whom they have children. Our resolution to stand together as a coalition in the national government, we have developed this and I read them as follows. 1, we will demand and vote for Parliament to pass legislation that reserve seats for women in Parliament be created. Number 2, we will demand and vote for Parliament to pass anti-gender discrimination legislation. 3, we will demand that laws against gender-based violence are enforced regardless of whether women are coerced to withdraw their claims or not. Number 4, we will demand that the national government resource and actionize the national gender-based violence strategy. Number 5, we will demand the national government reform the judiciary system to triad and expedite gender-based violence cases and ensure that due process and enforcement are achieved as fast as possible. Number 6, we will demand that the national government create a monitoring body to provide timely and at the very least annual updates and data on the status of women in our country. Number 7, we will demand the national government ensure that the police formalizes, resource, and actionize the Family Sexual Violence Unit as a system, in the formal system of police all around the country. Number 8, we will demand that the national government ensures that the court adopts, formalized, resource, and actionize specialized GBV streams in the court system. Number 9, we will demand that the national government take responsibility for creating a referral pathway for survivors that works. Number 10, we will encourage the national government to adopt a GBV council-based structure similar to that response that we have used successfully in responding to HIV and AIDS. This is the resolution, or at least the resolutions that we were put together at this juncture to represent all the discussion and the proposal and submission that have been made. Of course, there are others that the youth submitted, and we will adopt them as well. But at this juncture, this is the resolution that we have put together to guide ourselves and to challenge ourselves going forward, partnering with you all to ensure that from now on, we will do all we can to eliminate gender-based violence in our country and promote equality. Men, women, boys and girls, together let's build a great country of ours, Papua New Guinea.
Well, it seems like the microphone's been tossed between the two co-chairs, and I somehow become stuck in the middle of both of them as well. Thank you so much. Can we thank the two co-chairs, the Governors Alan Bird and Paul Sparkop? and the coalition that's seated here in front as well. We're slowly coming to the end, but they've read it, and it's taken them like half an hour, 45 minutes. Let's see them sign this document. Yes? How about this? So we witness this document that has to be signed, and that will be like sealing the agreement between the conversations that are taking place in the last day and a half. This table that's been brought forward, that's where the signatures will take place. And I know the media is here as well, but while this is going live on a live streaming on our Facebook page, just be wary that the cameras are rolling as well. Not stopping you from coming forward here to see how the signatures have been signed on or put on the paper. Thank you. All right. Okay. Yeah, the media. I know the media, so you please feel free to come up and take shots of this signature. Yes? Governor, sorry, yes? Who signs first? Okay. All right. You're the chair. Yeah, there you go. Yes, you've taken the forefront of this, and your co-chair is right behind you. Let's make sure he signs. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. All right. Sure. And the boys have to move the table. The table has to be moved. No, the table has to be moved. You need your glasses? Yeah. All right. John. Governor Parkup, Governor Bird, Governor Jufa, Governor Maneke, Honorable Kaupa from Mosby Northeast. This is part of the coalition. There are 20 members to the coalition. The Honorable Charles Abel, former Deputy Prime Minister, member for Alota. Well, they've signed, haven't they? Yes? Can we all give them a rousing applause? Thank you. And the National Coalition of Parliamentarians Against Gender-Based Violence, I'm going to ask you, you've taken enough shots, media? We want to see these all in the front pages tomorrow. Make sure they all come out. Eh? All right. And then they're going to come down here and take a shot with the rest of the audience here. How about that? Eh? All right. So the media is going to take up the stage, and we'll take a shot from the other way around. So the National Coalition Against of Parliamentarians Against Gender-Based Violence will be up the front here with the rest of the audience, and the media takes a shot from the stage. Okay? All right? And I have a special performance coming up as well, so ladies, get ready if you're up for a bit of a dance to shake those legs that have been stuck here for the last day and a half, okay? We've got it coming up. Don't worry, it's your day, all right? Okay. Everybody, yes, okay. So the coalition will be up the front, and everybody can stand, perhaps, all right? And we'll take the shot. And while the media is here as well, there will be a small press conference. Okay, can we have the lights on? Our cameras are going to go off, so if we need, can we have the lights on in the room? All right, much better. No worries. Okay, guys, for the first time you've given the honor to actually go up onto the stage. Come on, media, let's go. Yeah. Okay. Yep, I'm all right. Everybody behind, you want to stand? No? Oh. We can't see you from here, so you might, you probably, oh, hang on, let's see, why, you don't want to stand? Why? What's the problem? Come on, everybody stand up. Okay, everybody stand, please, and let's be right behind the coalition here. If you're shorter than the Honorable Jufa, then stand on your chair, probably. How about that, huh? Okay, good. Okay. Yes? You can count down, and what do we do, folks? Hooray? Would you say hooray? Put our hands up? Yes? Okay. Okay, who's going to do the countdown? I'll do that? Oh, am I honored? Thank you. All right. After 3. Cameras ready? After 3. 1, 2, 3. Hooray! Oh, wow. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, now we turn off the lights. Oh, oh yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, sorry. Governor, you probably have a better way.
Instead of sing out hooray, you sing out PNG and Mia, and then you put it.
Okay. Which light did you want off? The bright ones? Got it? Okay, after 3, and this time, we will not say hooray, but we'll say PNG and Mia. Huh? All right. Is that too long? Is that too mouthful? That's okay, yeah? All right, after 3. 1, 2, 3. One more? Okay, we didn't hear the... Okay. Oh, I'll say PNGM and everybody say Mia. All right, okay. You ready? I'm not counting because I have to say the words to them. All right, okay. PNGM. Mia. Oh. One more? Oh, okay. Have we got this recorded? We just played a recorded version, huh? And then I can tell. Okay. PNGM.